All right, we are live. So let's, okay.
Are we ready?
Sorry, go for it.
Are we ready to go?
Yes, I will now share my screen and we'll start in about 2 more minutes.
Okay.
And
Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Holding Each Other Tenderly open mic night with Semillas De Centro América. My name is Melissa. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and ella, and I am the treasurer for Semillas De Centro América. We would like to truly thank you for joining us in community tonight as we celebrate community care. This open mic is dedicated to the folks we care for and care for us. We are holding each other tenderly, always.
Hi everyone, my name is Brenda. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Inclusion Director of Semillas de Centro América, a Central American organization at SJSU. Our mission is to sustain a supportive community for Central American students and surrounding community members through individual and collective empowerment. We are dedicated to celebrating Central American culture and educating folks on Central American issues through community organizing, healing, and growth. Later in tonight's event, we will be sharing resources for where to donate funds for Hurricane Eta and Niota. So please stick around.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jen. My pronouns are she and they. I am the media director of Semillas. So before we begin tonight's open mic, I would like to review some community guidelines inspired by Mosaic. So to ensure we have a safe and brave space for all of us. So the first one, throw glitter, not shade. Please be kind and respectful to everyone performing, as well as when you're commenting on the YouTube chat. The second one, free speech, not hate speech. We are not limiting folks' freedom of speech. It just means we do not allow any type of discrimination or violence. Attack the system, not the community. Lastly, please provide a trigger warning when performing sensitive material. So if you could provide a statement right before you start performing, and also give folks a moment to prepare as they might want to step out. So thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kiara Vargas. My pronouns are she, her, hers, ella. I am the president of Semillas. Tonight, Mel and I have the honor to introduce our guest artist, Brina Nunez. Before I introduce our guest artist, I would like to share that we will have a Q&A portion after Brina's performance. So we encourage you to drop any questions in the chat below, and we will try our best to share this with Brina.
Brina Nunez is an Afro-Salvadoran Guatemalan cartoonist and comics professor based in the peninsula of the Bay Area. They center the intersectionalities of their identity through autobiographical comics and zines that center the nuances of existing as a first-generation Afro-descendiente from the United States. Their hope as a cartoonist and educator is to help Black, Indigenous people of color to give themselves permission to cry or laugh through the language of comics and to see this as a valuable form of storytelling. Brina and their partner, Lawrence Lindell, recently founded a small press called La Neja, house based in the Bay Area. Their first release comes out in January 21st, 2021, so be on the lookout. Please help me in giving a warm welcome to Brina Nunez.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, thank you. It's a huge honor, y'all. Like, as I've said before, I've been aware of Semillas and the work that y'all been doing at San Jose State. So thank you all for your efforts and your energy for creating safe spaces for Central American folks. But yeah, I'll get to the slideshow thingamajiggy right now and talk a little bit about what I do. While also do a live reading at some points of this open mic. So yeah, this is a self-portrait. I've been making comics. I think I took it more seriously around 2013, and that's when I started doing zine fests in the Bay Area. Yeah, I was born here. My mother's from Guatemala, my father's from El Salvador. There we go. And this is one of my very first submissions I did as a cartoonist for this anthology called Tales from La Vida, a Latinx comics anthology. And I basically tried to summarize when was I proud of being a Latinx person. And the story takes place when I started living in Oakland. And as you can see, there's a lot of writing, so I won't bore people for this particular moment, but yeah, it's a lot of thoughts. I think a lot of the time, and comics have always been the one place where I give myself a lot of space and time to just put all of these things together and to create a space for myself. But yeah, as you can see, I'm swimming in my own self-doubt and worries about my own relationship to Latinidad. And I was a San Francisco State student, so a lot of that education, especially from the Latino Studies department, really influenced the way that I wanted to shape my personal philosophies on creating comics. But I give a lot of credit to Clínica Martín Baró, which is a student-run clinic by SF State students and UCSF students. And we had a limpia one time, and as people who are giving care, primary care to our community and the mission, we also received care through the small group of curanderas. And this is basically a manifestation of what I saw when I was receiving a vision through the limpia. And it brought me back to Lake Catitlan and just warm memories and just feeling this ineffable presence of warmth and colorfulness that just surrounded me. So that's one of my fondest memories from, I think it was 6 years ago when that all happened. And ever since quarantine, I've been doing these short little quick comic strips, just to make another outlet for myself since I don't write a lot. And comics has been the one method I've been using to default to in terms of creating an outlet for myself and to articulate what I'm feeling. So here's a quick little reading of an installment from Quarantine Diaries. So the sun's shining outside, super happy sun, and I'm just feeling super sad. Trying to do some yoga. Oh my God. Nothing's working. And we have a lot of hummingbirds that come by in the backyard. I'm glad to live in a time where we view moments of grief as necessary actions for making room to fall in love with everything. So yeah, this is just me trying to find gratitude in being sad and being able to give space to sadness, especially when the George Floyd protests were happening in combination with shelter in place. Wow, I love you, dude. And here's another small comic that is a part of a beautiful collection of stories by women and trans folks called Drawing Power. And trigger warning, there's street harassment involved. It doesn't matter who it is or how I am approached. Their words still slither past my stoic disposition as I pass them on the street. Baby, me gusta. These cis-het men could be my dad or uncles. They were once boys who learned how to publicly humiliate as a rite of passage. Hey, bonita, smile. Salvadorian women are fiery. Dame un beso. More speech balloon. Come here, you not leaving me? And it's just growing and growing into like this amorphous blob. I try so damn hard to not show any signs of vulnerability, from cat calls and lustful glances towards my femme-presenting body. But I can't help but feel so invaded and damaged by patriarchy and colonization. Male gaze thinks it can snatch femme bodies like flowers. Swoosh. It thinks we are delicate, but we are made of stronger stuff. The male gaze wants us to enslave us. It tries to mold us into objects, flowers that can be plucked, uprooted, and trophied. Give yourself permission to grow at your own pace. And then the last panel, it's supposed to be a little homage to California. California poppies in bloom. And I made this during Trump's first year as president, especially when we were receiving a lot of anti-Central American rhetoric. From there to here, when your blood comes from a land of volcanoes, you carry heartache, anxiety, confusion, pain. But you've come so far to find that you carry paradise in your heart. And earlier this year, I can't believe it was just this year, for Black History Month, I got to create a journalism comic about Afro-Salvadoranness and claiming Blackness based off of my personal experience, while also interviewing other fellow Salvadorans or Afro-Salvis from the internet. So what comes to your mind when you think of El Salvador? So I'm just going to show a few panels from that piece. And I got to have the huge honor of interviewing Carlos Lara, both a visual artist and LGBT activist in El Salvador, who resists Eurocentric beauty standards by creating paintings and comics featuring Afro-Salvadorans. I'm inspired by those Afro faces that exist in our country, but aren't often shown. I want to make them exist so more people can feel identified. Meanwhile, in Southern California, Sayara Miluska creates Central American beauty and art on Twitter and Instagram. As a child, I remember trying to find some sort of Central American representation in the media, radio, and literally anything. Because I felt like an outcast, feeling like I was the only Central American in a predominantly Mexican and white town. But there is a growing demand for El Salvador to accept itself as a multi-ethnic nation. On August 30th, 2014, the city of Zacatecoluca hosted the first Día de la Afrodescendencia de El Salvador. This was the first time Afro-Salvadoran history and culture were openly celebrated. One of the ways I've been able to find solace, empathy, is through the poems by Alan Pelayas Lopez, the Afro-Indigenous poet and artist from Oaxaca, Mexico. Our paths crossed a few years ago in Oakland, California. And these are a few lines from Discovering Blackness. Mamá María me dice que somos negros. Mamá María tells me to love my skin, mi piel, to love my accent, mi acento, to love my culture, mi cultura. Alan is also a member of the steering committee for BLMP, short for Black LGBTQ plus Migrant Project, and they invited me to a queer Afro-Latinx gathering in Houston. I think it was last year. I'm just trying to double check. Yes, last year, to talk about Black erasure and queer bodies in Latin American countries while uplifting each other's stories. And we're a small Bay Area chapter, but we're growing. And if you want to find out more information, highly recommend going to @officialBLMP on Instagram. There's a wonderful liberation work that's happening right now, especially with our trans Garifuna community in this project. And here's another short excerpt from another anthology called Be Gay, Do Comics. And this one I talk more about how I explore my non-binariness from a non-Western lens. I tried going to therapy for the first time last year. It was helpful until it grew to be exhausting. You said you identified as non-binary. How would you describe that? For me, it's about feeling which type of energy calls to you. Some days I'll be more femme than masc, or a little both. It's a spiritual experience. But I hear that you're supposed to reject the gender spectrum entirely. Isn't that the truth? Maybe for some folks, but I see this way of existing in different terms. Femininity and masculinity are two elements that influence the way I carry myself. This was back when I was a teaching artist in the city. Miss Brita, are you a man or a woman? My attempt to sound like a child. Some days I'm more like a lady, but others like a dude or a little both. Therefore, I don't see myself existing as a genderless person. Before the term genderqueer was coined, Indigenous people have understood gender fluidity as a spiritual connection to several identities, such as Mahu, Mushe, in Zapotec culture. Oh yeah, and Mahu is a word from Hawaiian culture, and Fa Afafine from Samoa. And let's see, do I have enough time to read a poem? Okay, cool. I made this also earlier this year for, let me just double check the chat. Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, for a friend zine called Queering Friendships. And this is kind of like my love letter to all of my friends who I haven't been able to see that often during quarantine, and I terribly, terribly miss them. It's hard to settle down, like the kind of settle down that doesn't come with unpleasant surprises like, mija, mijo, it's time to find another home. With a little prayer and holy optimism, we always had a home, but a home that we can't fall in love with. But the love I have could be malleable and stretched for miles because home moves across borders of El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico. It's a familiar thread that extends across oceans, deserts, and lands back to beads of sweat from a fiery tropical embrace. It's from an iota of sand to a menagerie of dancing water droplets gliding across sea cliffs. So, what is a home anymore? It's a little down and up on some maps. It's a cackle from sharing painfully honest memes, learning how to fall and recover from a Vogue cipher. The smile lines from warm security of being in a circle, clinking glasses, to being alive so that we can witness glory of the Most High in each other's eyes. Home is hard to maintain or contain. But whatever it is, or what it's made of, I trust in the conviction you used to support the foundation of your soul, because it's been the one place where you opened your door and guided me to a seat at the table. That's it. Thank you all for listening and reading with me.
Wow, thank you so much, Brina. Snaps for Brina. That was amazing. I always love seeing your art and, when you discussed your comics and just talking about finding paradise in your heart or giving yourself permission to grow. That was just so beautiful and it warmed my heart and it like held me tenderly right now, which is, the theme of the event. Thank you so much. Um, I just wanted to thank you so much for starting us off for our open mic. And after our next performance, we will return to a Q&A portion with Brina. So feel free to add any questions in the chat box. And our next performance is by Carolina Escamilla, who will be performing Caged Children, Niños Enjaulados. Carolina Rivera Escamilla is an educator, writer, actor, and documentarian, and was born in El Salvador. They went into exile in the mid-1980s. Now she lives in Los Angeles, California, and became a PEN America and Emerging Voices Fellowship. She authored After and was published in 2015. She is also the director and producer of the documentary Manlio Argueta, Poets and Volcanoes. Give it up for Carolina.
Yeah, thank you very much for creating this space and for inviting me. Thank you to Professor Gomez, Jonathan Gomez. Okay, so I'm going to take so much time. I'll take you to this and let me know if you can see it. Can you see it?
Can you share your screen?
Now?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so Caged Children. My heart for and my solidarity for Central America, for those countries going through these storms. Okay, Caged Children. How will we remove the thorn, wartime, sting, left us moribund, dead, dying, no absolution in our aging memory? Our boys and girls caged behind bars and barbed wire wait for a despot to release them. They are now the children of the hellish night of the massacres in El Mozote and Sumpul, 1981. They painted the moon black, the thorn filters through rivers, lakes, seas, the water veins swell. The thorn embeds in water-blooded flesh. How do we excise it from our imprisoned daughters and sons? The thorn infects us in our collective souls. Rivers, stones fly to the stars. You can hear voices in its fired fly light, the night of the children. Of El Mozote, I call the stars, to the ancestors, to the earth. I plant words that echo in the universe and offer the universe my future. Our boys and girls caged within metal bars, not guilty. Our sons and daughters caged in our 21st century prison. They call it detention facility. Not the massacre ones of that December night of 1981. I remember whistling gusts of wind, the smell of running mountain water, carpeting starry night. You caress the hair of our volcanoes. Fireflies lit up the hands of the children, lighting bags, lanterns flying through the universe, that December of purple pink twilight. Our boys and girls imprisoned, what sons of tomorrow are we offering them? What future? That December night before the moon stopped lighting the pockmarked roads, the beast already opened its eyes, spit bullets against them. 9-year-old girl knew all her family massacred. remembers posing for the Polaroid photo in her white communion gown, between her two older sisters dressed in pink dress with white flowers in their hands. She clutches fireflies and lightning bugs. Once they were machine gunned, fireflies and children slip toward forgetting. In our throat, the infected thorn gags against ancient memory. Our daughters and sons imprisoned, teachers, mothers, fathers, shock the future imprisoned by the same beast, the silence, the voices of parents and children. Perfumed by Carrion in 1981, we are failing once more here in this garden cemetery. We have separated, we have split up, we no longer fly, we are dead. Carrion has covered us with other names empty of meaning. Our boys and girls in jail, not even one firefly, no lightning bugs wings its way to accompany them in their fear. How do we get the thorn out of our throat to scream ancient memory, recalled, revived, resurgent? Our daughters and sons are caged. Thank you. I'm going to get the Spanish one now. Niños enjaulados. ¿Cómo vamos a quitarnos la espina del tiempo de aquella guerra que nos dejó moribundos, agonizando, muertos, tan sutiles sin absolución en nuestra memoria antigua? Nuestros niños y niñas enjaulados tras las rejas de alambre de púas, esperando por un déspota para dejarlos en libertad. No son los niños y las niñas de la masacre, del mozote ni del zumpul, aquellos de las noches infernales, 1981, pintaron la luna de negro. La espina se filtra a través de ríos, lagos y mares. El agua tiene las venas inflamadas, la espina incrustada en su piel. ¿Cómo la eliminamos? De nuestras hijas e hijos encarcelados. No son los niños y las niñas del mozote, ni del zumpul. La espina nos infectó en lo más profundo nuestra alma colectiva. Las piedras del río vuelan hacia las estrellas y puedes escuchar voces en la luz de la luciérnaga. Esa noche de los niños del mozote. Llamo a las estrellas, a los antepasados, a la tierra. Planto palabras que resuenan en todo el universo y ofrezco a este mi futuro. ¿Por qué están nuestros niños y niñas enjaulados entre barras de metal? No son culpables. Son nuestros hijos e hijas enjaulados en este siglo XXI, en prisiones que llaman centro de detención. No son los masacrados de aquella noche de diciembre de 1981. Recuerdo la silbante ráfaga de viento, el rumor del correr del agua manantial, de montaña alfombrada, noche estrellada, acaricias el cabello de nuestros volcanes. Las luciérnagas iluminaron las manos de los niños y niñas. Son linternas revoloteando por el universo en ese diciembre de crepúsculo rosa púrpura. Los niños y las niñas están encarcelados. ¿Qué soles del mañana les estamos ofreciendo? Esa noche de diciembre, antes que la luna dejara de iluminar los caminos, la bestia abrió su ojo, escupiendo balas contra ellos. La niña de 9 años recuerda su comunión, ella entre sus 2 hermanas con vestidos rosados, sosteniendo flores blancas en sus manos, posando para la foto de Polaroid. En sus puños aprieta las luciérnagas. Una vez ametrallados, las luciérnagas, los niños y las niñas fueron olvidados. En nuestra garganta traemos la espina infectada, mientras nuestras hijas e hijos están encarcelados. Maestros, madres, padres, el futuro está encarcelado por las mismas bestias que silenciaron las voces de los niños y niñas esa caroña del año de 1981. Estamos fallándoles una vez más. en este jardín de cementerio. Nos hemos separado, nos hemos quebrantado. Ya no volamos, estamos muertos. La carroña nos ha cubierto con otros nombres vacíos de significado. Nuestros niños y niñas están en la cárcel. Ni siquiera una luciérnaga, ningún relámpago que acompañe su miedo en el camino. ¿Cómo eliminamos la espina que llevamos entre la garganta para gritarle a la memoria antigua, recordarla, resucitarla, insurgente? Nuestras hijas e hijos están encarcelados. Gracias. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Carolina. That was a powerful performance. Thank you. I would like to encourage once again to drop any questions that you might have into the chat. We will be having our Q&A after our next performance. So next up, we have a pre-recorded performance by Raquel Garcia titled Abuelita. Raquel Garcia is a first generation in the United States with her father's family immigrating from Mexico. She is a public health major, chemistry minor, graduating this December. After graduation, she plans to work, study, and spend time with family before applying to medical school. She currently works as a research assistant with the Press-Fi team at Stanford School of Medicine and serves as a media marketing director for Virtual Companions National Nonprofit Organization. Raquel's interests lie in reducing health disparities specifically for Latinx and Black communities through medicine and public health. While poetry is not her ultimate career goal, Raquel has been performing in poetry slams and open mics since she was 15 years old and published a poetry book at 17 years old. So please give it up for Raquel Garcia.
I remember the days I used to stay at my abuela's house, too sick to go to school. Hearing the pitter-patter of the rain outside the window, I lay wrapped in a tiger cobija, watching cartoons en la tele. Most of the time, she would make me abuelita hot chocolate, adding extra cinnamon because she knew how much I loved it. On the days I had mocos, out came the Vivaporu, rubbed in a thick layer above my lip, across my back and chest. I still remember it as the cure for all ails. Well, that and my abuela's caldo, of course. Even now, nothing makes me feel better than her caldo. With arroz, verduras, y limón, the limón was the best part. And my abuela knew that. On the days I stayed home with a fever, I spent the day sleeping with a wet towel across my forehead, waking up periodically to my abuela pressing her lips on my cheek to check my temperature. I learned that from her. I have always called her tita because I could never pronounce abuelita as a small child. Her name is Angeles though, and it's so fitting. I know that when people say angels live among us, they're referring to my tita. For an angel, she sure knows how to serve some attitude. Everyone says I get that from her. That's my goal anyway. To learn to live like her, living like an angel on earth. The beauty is that she doesn't even have to think about it. Simplemente nació de Los Ángeles. Gracias.
Gracias, Raquel, for the beautiful performance of your abuelita. It was, I can definitely relate. I used to call my abuelita Bolita because I couldn't pronounce abuelita. So thank you again. So now we will be doing a Q&A with our guest artist, Brina. So the first question, give me 1 second. Just making sure if anyone dropped any in the chat. Okay, so the first question, Brina, what memorable responses have you received from your artwork?
Oh, that's a sweet question. um, I think it has to do with the piece about the one referring to volcanoes and how we carry paradise in our heart. Actually, from people who are not Central American, friends who also come from like other colonized countries like Philippines or Hawaii. They also feel like they have a very similar relationship with the landscape, especially with volcanoes. Like that makes me really happy to know that there's this different type of relationship that's also very cross-cultural and very universal.
And then, how has your artwork evolved over time, and how?
Let's see. I was actually just looking through a bunch of sketchbooks. I think stylistically, I feel a bit more confident when it comes to working with ink, even though I'm now starting to delve into more digital approaches to making comics. I mean, I've always colored everything in Photoshop, but I think I feel like I can be a bit more playful and explore humor a bit more in my comics and in my storytelling, and owning my awkwardness too. I feel like that's kind of been more present as I've gotten a little bit more quote unquote experienced as a cartoonist.
Someone actually just dropped a question. I like how you described feeling femme one day and mask another, or a little bit of both. How would you define masculine and feminine?
I think I base those off of like the way people have like interacted with my body growing up. I guess for me, being a mask is like having the space to give myself to wear maybe like collar shirts, hoodies, baggy pants one day, and then the other day, if I want to feel like more high femme, just playing around with lipstick, more skirts, and at the same time, when I say a little bit of both, I feel like I sometimes even confuse people. Like energetically, I'll kind of do a combination of both feminine and masculine like appearances in terms of how I adorn myself and how I decorate myself. Sometimes I'm just remembering somebody was acknowledging me as sir, but then when they saw my face and they saw like the lipstick and like eyeliner, they were a little like dumbfounded, I guess is the word. Which is kind of, I don't take offense to that because it kind of makes me feel affirmed in like, oh, like this guy on the street is like acknowledging like there's something else going on, and they're like a little bit of both right now, and that's fine. I hope that answers that question.
And then I I have a question as well. I have your zine of being half Guatemalan, half Salvadoran. Could you talk more about the process of creating that zine and what it means to you?
Yeah. That was done in grad school, and I was trying to figure out how to articulate what it means to be a person that carries both. And I think for me at the time, it made more sense to just divide the zine as like a flip zine, which I learned from one of my mentors. And once I was mostly dedicated to just what it felt like to mostly exist as someone who's perceived as Black. And the other side, when it came to exploring like my Guatemalaness on that side of the zine, I realized it was a bit more poetic and more single images with like some smaller captions. And yeah, it's funny because both sides were very different. One side was more comic strip, and the other side of that zine was more like a little bit of just standalone single panel images accompanied with a little piece of poetry, kind of acknowledging how much I try to understand like my my Guatemalanness, and how that kind of surfaces by even being close to plants, being close to like anything that's really green, which reminds me of like the landscape. But now I'm trying to not separate both, because I feel like it's kind of been hard to focus on one part of me without being in conversation with the other.
Thank you, Brina. Elisa, do we have time for one more question, or will we be moving on to the next performer?
Can I ask something? Yeah.
Yes.
Were you influenced by any artist or any artist that how to mix the words with drawings? I mean, do you have any artists in mind?
That's a great question. It's like several people. Definitely Charles Schultz, who like makes like the Peanuts comic strips, and let's see, a little bit of Hello Kitty, and a little bit of anime and manga. And I'm trying to think, there was another cartoonist that I was also inspired by. As far as like the story and like the pacing styles, I'm inspired by Jaime Crespo, who's a Yaqui Chicano cartoonist from the Bay Area, and one more guy, Jaime Hernandez, who publishes, who has been creating this series called Love and Rockets with his brother Gilbert Hernandez.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm like one more person, Marjan Satrapi, who created Persepolis.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, she's definitely an inspiration, especially when it comes to realizing how comics can not only be like cathartic for the artist, but also very educational and super empowering.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brina. Thank you so much for being so transparent with us in our space. I appreciate it, and we all do. Thank you all for submitting your questions for the Q&A portion. We would like to share our next performer with you and bring them to the virtual stage. Elizabeth Jimenez Montelongo. Elizabeth is an SJSU alumni and an Indigenous Chicana poet, visual artist, and teacher based in the San Francisco Bay Area. Her writing is influenced by her Indigenous Mesoamerican ancestry, Mexica, which is Aztec philosophy, Mexican culture, Chicano history, and her experiences as a woman in the United States. Elizabeth's visual artwork has been included in over 50 exhibitions in galleries and museums across the United States. Her poetry is included and forthcoming in various literary magazines and anthologies.
Hi, thank you, Brenda, and hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. So I have 3 poems to share with you today. The first one I wrote keeping in mind my Indigenous heritage. It's called Border Free. I see you, see me in California in 2020. I see my face in yours. Can you see your face in mine? 50 years ago, I could not attend college in my brown skin, but today I have diplomas and degrees. 150 years ago, I couldn't vote with the womb in my body, but today I vote with my ballots and dollars. 200 years ago, I was a slave, body tortured, children stolen, but today I take back my body and my children. 530 years ago, I existed in two places. Half my blood was roaming this continent, half my blood was across the ocean. But today I stand whole, uniting two worlds. 600 years ago, I was painting mysteries on stones and in books in red and black ink. Today I paint the clues. 13,000 years ago, I was roaming the continent, north to south, jungle to snow, sea to sea, border free. Again today, my mind is free. I see you and I see me, border free. All right, the next poem I'd like to share is called Tongues, Pens, and Brushes. And I just chose it because I've had a good response to it, so I'm hoping you enjoy it. Spanish was beaten out of our grandmothers and grandfathers, slapped hands, spanked dignity, minds whipped into the next few generations. Long before that, our grandmothers, and our grandfathers' indigenous languages were cut out with their tongues, artwork cut off with their hands, dances cut off with their feet, poems replaced by false history, painted books burned from their hearts, minds whipped into the next few generations, and our blood still runs. Where were our parts and bodies thrown? Only sacrifice victims are easily found. Murderers, thieves, and investors telling the story of those they enslave. Historians and reporters chew it up to regurgitate later, and they keep on chewing. The first cut off our parts, killed our bodies, and the others continue to pick our wounds with their pens. But now I have a pen too, and a brush. Here in the pile of parts, a tongue and hand became a seed, grew to be a flowering tree with fruit. Here I am, dropping to the ground, to rot, enrich the earth, for more trees and plants, for more flowers and fruit, flowers and songs, flower songs, fluttering like leaves in the wind, becoming butterflies. You know, when our ancestors disappeared, they turned into us, disguised with new skin and blood, new words on these tongues. Languages shape reality. Our reality needs a shape, a circle. The truth has many sides, cultures in the mind, homelands in the heart. Tomorrow will be back yesterday. I saw you tomorrow and you'll see me as I was when we come around again. A pen in one hand, a brush in the other, red and black ink, pictures from the past telling the story of tomorrow. Words from today telling the truth of yesterday. Home is in the heart, culture in the mind, a circle has no sides. The truth needs a shape, a language, a tongue. Take a pen, take a brush, feel the truth, pick your words, let them chew, find your parts. Put them back, remember the memories, in your bones, in your blood, entwined serpents of DNA. Shed the old skins, hearts, minds, feet, hands, tongues, demand attention. Bring our minds to the coming generations. Say the words, say it now, watch the tree grow. All right, and my last poem is a very short one. I was trying to find something that would fit the theme of today. Something kind of like sweet, and this one's kind of like, to me, like self-care related. It's called Caldo de Pollo Cures. I transform plants and all their dismembered pieces, take their roots, stems, leaves, petals, even their seeds, place them in my largest olla full of water. I turn up the fire, start the steam of chemical reactions in my magic cauldron, with a sprinkle of herbs, a dash of spices, brewing caldo de pollo cures, a potion con arroz that gives long life. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was amazing. Thank you for being so vulnerable with us. It was beautiful. And thank you for being in community with us tonight. So before we have our next performer, I would like to take a moment to share some resources to support Central American communities that have been impacted by both Hurricane Eta and the second one coming, Iota. So if you could see on the screen, we have a few GoFundMes, list of organizations. There's a really dope event being organized by @Jelly Potato. It's called GATA, Central American Relief Fundraiser, virtual film screening of La Llorona, the Guatemalan version. And there's a raffle, and a lot of dope artists have actually donated from, like paintings to earrings, different things. So please, like, if you're able to, please support that event. It's really dope. You could even win something that was like handmade by someone. And as representatives of Semillas, we just really want to share and support the efforts of folks organizing on the ground. And if you use your phone and you scan the QR code, it will take you to a Google Doc we put together. And there's also a few other Google Docs as well where folks have organized everything. And yeah, please donate if you can. And thank you again for being here with us tonight. And then I want to introduce our next performer, who will be Diana Samuilo. Diana Samuilo Garcia is a graduate estudiante in the Chicano Studies Master Programs here at SJSU. Diana is a scholar, archivist, and poet working in the service of her community as an ethical and critical thinking educator in our multicultural and increasingly interconnected global society. Her art and poesía speaks about her familia, her cultura, and her lived experiences as a mujer nepantlera. In the future, she wants to be a community leader who uses her Chicanx studies, knowledge, and skills to address pressing issues in marginalized communities. So please give a warm welcome. They sent a video in.
Hola, mi nombre es Diana Garcia. My pronouns are she, her, hers, ella, and my two hometowns are Salinas, California, and Michoacán, Mexico. This poem, Amor Maternal, was inspired to celebrate my mother's first-time birthing day. Here is the poem. I am Mami's first creation, Mami's primeriza, con quien por primera vez en su vientre cargo vida. Los primeros latidos y ultrasonidos, las primeras pataditas. Soy los antojitos de tacos, champurrado, mango con chile, fresas con crema y churritos. I'm a pedacito from her womb, la primera habitante en su útero. Soy las primeras náuseas y los primeros mareos. Soy las cicatrices en su abdomen. Soy el cordón umbilical. I am Mommy's whitened hips. Soy sus swollen pies and swollen pechos. I am her aching nipples. Soy los primeros desvelos. I am her tired ojitos, the dark under-eye ojeras. I am Mommy's warm breast milk. Soy sus felicidades, serás buena mamá. I am Mommy's first canas and her first señora facial arrugas. I am her first regaño as a madre with hija de tu madre. Her first mothering condolences with a heavy gasp followed by an ay mija. Soy el primer suspiro profundo de orgullosimiento with esta es mi hija. I am Mommy's firstborn. Soy su primer amor incondicional. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana, for that. It was beautiful, and I was able to picture everything. Super heartwarming. I loved it. We appreciate you sending the video to participate in today's open mic. Up next, we'll be playing a pre-recorded performance by Tony Morales. Tony is a multimedia artist from Los Angeles. He first started making poetry in college, where he participated in June Jordan's Poetry for the People as a student, and then as a teacher poet.
Hi, everyone. So first up, I want to thank Semillas for holding and for organizing this event, and for giving the opportunity to share a few poems. My name is Tony Morales. I use he, him pronouns. Today I'm going to be sharing a few poems. So here goes my first one. Dad's 43rd birthday text invitation said, arrive by 7 p.m., but Tia Toña, our first guest, arrives around 8 p.m. Tia Toña, like Tio Luis, Tia Chava, and Tia Cris, knows this is a party, not a party, and 7 p.m. is the come help set up time. 8 p.m. works best. Ma always needs extra time preparing the birthday mole poblano, turning dirt-colored powder paste into a creamy brown sauce, sharing the same color as dark coffee and the thickness of tomato sauce. A paste sent by my grandma from the family-built home in Puebla, the first village home to have a tile roof at the cost of the 1967 family truck. So I was told that Dad's 42nd birthday. My mom pours the mole sauce on Superior Market prepackaged chicken, an American flavor, now making her forget the flavor of chicken from her childhood backyard. Yet, as she stirs the mole with the chicken, she begins to say, "Me acuerdo cuando," which is her resistance of letting all childhood memories go. Memories of grandma using hitting backyard eggs as vacuums, removing mom's headache from thick manure air pollution, and removing stomach aches from unclean water. Moving the egg on the forehead, the stomach, in a clockwise motion, like mom does, combining the chicken and the mole. And at times, when the East LA freeway air becomes heavy on my lungs, mom does the same to me, rubbing my aching chest in the same movement, carrying grandma's care, skepticism, Puebla, and mom's childhood. After the birthday dinner, Eddie Santiago's voice serenades through JBL stacked speakers, causing Buzz, Tias, and Tios to quit thinking how the mole tastes sweet from the touch of chocolate, yet spicy from the dry red chiles, and how it would never be as good as the one in Puebla, and makes them move their hips to the rhythm of the bongos and the ideophone, a salsa of middle-aged children on the dance floor bringing back the Mexican salsa street dances from the 80s with the fast back and forth swings. And that's the joy of forgetting what it feels like, living between remittances and 9 p.m. long distance phone calls. The joy before mom and dad's 2001 deportations, building a dance floor where we belong, a reminder to the neighbors that we are still dancing on a 10 p.m. Saturday night. So we dance to salsa, dance while we still can, before the police arrives to remind us that our happiness in this country is another noise complaint. Thank you. So the next poem I'm going to be sharing is an emulation of Lucille Clifton's Miss Rosie. So this is my version of Miss Rosie, and I call this one Miss Angeles. When I watch you lean against gang-owned white walls, standing, renewing the smell of bacon-wrapped sausages first introduced to the grill in the afternoon, ready for orders. Or when I watch you lower your eyebrows, splattering grease from the grill, showing the threatening gap between your two front teeth as you discipline my best friend, your son, by your side, hoping the angry saliva landing on his face would carry enough penetration embedding the "I want you in school, not the streets, unless you're working your ass off like me" in his head. And you too, threatening me as you point your finger. I obey, not wanting to know the consequences if I didn't. Or when I watch you cautiously slide your eyes from left to right, making sure family members of those on the grill do not see you selling. And when they do, their sirens remind you of your status, leading to your criminal sales in these streets instead of working at the Jacks down the block. So you ran losing $6 of hot dogs, ran to lose this week's bean dinner, continued running to continue feeding your four-member family in a one-bedroom apartment. I say, when I watch you, you public disturbance, causing the stop of the boulevard flow, making people regret they had spent money on Wiener Schnitzel. You product of neoliberal policies, the best street chef on First Street, the best hot dogs in town, called Angeles, Senora Angeles, Ma by my best friend. I stand up, thinking of you, Miss Angeles, as you run saving your family, thinking of my mother as she irons spring dresses, saving hers. Through the criminalization of your presence 7 days a week on the boulevard vending, I stand up. When I write this poem about Los Angeles, my Angeles, Miss Angeles, and how all my heroes fry and grill pigs for a living, and we live to cook dinner for each of our birthdays. Thank you.
Yes, please give it up for Tony. Thank you, Tony, for sharing those beautiful pieces. Our next performer at tonight's Holding Each Other Tenderly Open Mic Night is our very own SJSU professor in Chicana and Chicano Studies, Dr. Jonathan Gomez. Dr. Gomez is a poet and professor in the Department of Chicanic Studies. He was born and raised in the barrio of City Terrace in East LA. At SJSU, he has the privilege to serve as the faculty advisor for Semillas and as a facilitator of the Culture Counts reading series here at SJSU. We now invite Dr. Gomez to the stage.
Wow, thank y'all. Thank you so much. To the members of Semillas, to the community of poets that are here. I just want to say that it's an honor and a privilege to walk with y'all, with Semillas at SJSU and in the larger world that we all live in. We know that at this moment, we are in a crisis, right? I think we face multiple crises all at the same time, and for many of us, before this, COVID-19, before, the hurricanes, there were already hard times. And, a lifetime of figuring out how to make a way through a history of hurt. And I think that, one thing that y'all teach me is that when you come together, the marvelous is possible. And I'm just so thankful that, I get to think with y'all, I get to ground with y'all. And it's really me who, just always learns so much from the heart and the knowledge that y'all put into action. And so since I've come to SJSU, you've welcomed me in ways that have made me feel very welcome and just very seen. And so I appreciate y'all so much. The piece that I'm going to read, I wrote it for my Nina, my madrina, Sandy. And, trigger warning, it is, about domestic violence. But this was an effort as a young boy trying to, hold to her and let her know that she was loved. And it's called Going Crazy. When the sun would set, you were sure to come and ask, who wants to go with me? To our inquiries about the destination, you'd answer, crazy. And just like that, we'd join you on a familiar ride. Windows down, we dashed down Brannick past La Princesa at Fisher. And when we hit Hamel, you would step on it, causing butterflies to come alive and flutter in our stomachs. You were always great at making us laugh in your stick shift buggy. Speakers blasting the music of Madonna. We'd hang a left and head north on Eastern Avenue and then hang another onto City Terrace Drive. When you would ask us to roll up the windows, we knew we were getting close. Then there we were, in a dark alley just past Hazard Avenue, a land of shadows with abandoned shopping carts and flattened stacked boxes discarded from the nearby liquor stores. Milk crates were always set up in circles, hinting at a congregation, and dogs never stopped barking. You never lied to us, but your promises of ice cream cones and potato chips were too good at shifting our attention from where we had to head to first. And when you would lock the doors and vanish, out came our tactics to calm the madness sparked by fear of dark and desolate alleyways. When people came creeping by, we played dead while holding hands in the back seat of your car. When the clothes from underneath your seats couldn't hide us enough from car lights that cruised by, we'd scream your name in unison. Nina. When we would see you returning from the house of the man that treated you like a rag doll, We would tuck the clothes back underneath your seats, wipe the tears clean from our faces, pretend it wasn't so bad like we did the last time. Because all we knew is that in despite of our fears and tears from being alone in the backseat of your car in dark and desolate alleyways, none of us little ones wanted you to ever have to come here and go crazy all alone. Thank y'all. Yeah, thank you so much for offering me a space to express that. I come from a family full of magnificent women who reared me, and one of the people I look up to very much is my madrina Sandy. So, thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gomez. That was very moving and powerful. And, just hearing you talk about the streets in East LA, it took me back to when I would move past those, but I definitely felt the love for your Nina and how much you respect her. And thank you so much. And it's an honor and a privilege to have you here tonight with us. Thank you. Our last performance of the night features a performance titled Holding Each Other Tenderly by Kalena Zamora. Kalena Zamora is a senior at SJSU and an English major. Give it up for Kalena.
If we hold each other tenderly, what would that look like? If we hold each other tenderly, what would that look like? Would your anxieties melt into security? Would your tears dry up from the sun? Would your voice be heard? Would words of comfort feel like a mother's hug? Would walls shift in our hearts to build a home in front of us? Would the disconnect connect us finally? If we communicate, we can build community. If we speak reality into existence, show our support from a distance, we can build community. Because nothing reaches farther and wider than the words, I'm here for you. If we hold each other tenderly, it could feel like home. If we hold each other tenderly, it could look like joy. If we hold each other tenderly, it could touch us all to be more than what we were before when we were apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalena. That was beautiful. I'm tearing up. Thank you. Sorry, I'm full of emotions right now. Sorry. Okay, as we close out, we just want to thank all the performers who performed live and those who sent their recordings. It was all amazing. And we thank you so much for your support. Thank you, Brina, for wanting to be a part of this. We have always admired you and your art. And to finally be able to have an event with you is an honor. Thank you for all the work that you do. Shout out to Elisa and Jonathan for thinking of Semillas. We appreciate you so much. And yeah, just being in this space with everyone, it feels good. And it's a nice reminder that we're all together. And thank you.